Hello, Theo traders. This is Gianni DePoce, and today is the 27th of February, 2024. And I'm excited to take you through quite a few important charts today. Seeing some stocks that we discussed recently have some massive upside breakouts. We'll get to that in a moment, but I want to start off by discussing the S&P 500, which has seen about 3 consecutive days in a row worth of selling pressure. So previously had an upside target in the index in the 5,100 plus or minus 60 zone. So we did tag that upside target. Notice that we formed this all-time high with a pretty wide case of bearish divergence in price in the RSI indicator. We are due for a high to unfold, but that doesn't mean that we have to have some sort of cataclysmic decline or pullback. Kind of been explaining this in recent weeks. I'm looking for maybe a couple of weeks worth of sideways price action, kind of shake out some of the excess optimism in the market, and eventually make our way back to new all-time highs. I could see this market rallying as high as 5,800, 6,000 before we really run the risk of a crash-like scenario. But until then, I think we're still in a dip buying environment. Even though there are some mounting downside risks in the near term. If we jump over to the tech sector, we can see, or the NASDAQ 100, predominantly represented by tech, still hanging out near the highs here as well. As a rule, consolidations near the highs of a move are bullish price action. And here too, despite the divergence, it does look like we could get a pop into the 18,400 give or take area. But, if we hit that zone, I think it would be very healthy from a technical standpoint to watch and see a sideways multi-week corrective type of congestion. Markets can't just go straight up. The faster they rise, the harder they fall. We want to avoid that as much as possible. Now, the other market that's been booming as of late is crypto. Bitcoin rallying to a new multi-month high. Now it's only about $10,000 to $12,000 away from its all-time high. I did have a secondary upside objective in the $54,000 to $56,000 area. So did take some more chips off the table in this sector. I had some trades on related to crypto. I had that Ethereum trust reduced another bit of that since Ethereum hit my upside target of $3,300 to $3,500 today. So now, I'm riding with significantly less risk, going to just let this market do whatever it wants at this point. I did completely close out my position in Coinbase. We took on that trade here a couple weeks back. Turned out about a 35-36% return in just a couple of weeks. So that was a solid trade. But that wasn't even the biggest winner that we shared. I actually didn't take this trade on myself, but we did share it in the TheoTRADE chat room. Viking Therapeutics up over 112% today. Apparently reports surfaced that this company had a breakthrough in an obesity drug, weight loss drug, and we started sharing this stock in the chat room back here in mid-January, and we had already scaled out of our initial profit position on this, and now we basically had taken out all of the principal and just are going to let this run and see how high it could go. And so this was a really nice trade as of late. Now, I do want to jump back to the tech sector overall. Look at semiconductors because semiconductor index kind of flat, hanging out near the highs today. Overall, this is not bearish price action, but we know that there's been a massive rise. Obviously, NVIDIA still stealing the headlines, consolidating near its all-time highs, but still have positions in on advanced micro devices that is still postured in a very bullish manner. This looks like almost, I don't want to call it a bull flag, call it a small rectangle or a triangle of the sort, but this is constructive bullish price action. Still have a position here in Marvel, fading off the highs a little bit, but I'm especially interested in what's going on in the energy sector right now. So we've been accumulating some energy names over the last couple of weeks. I've shared some of those in these videos, but above $78 per barrel, I'm a lot more interested in crude oil and can't rule out a pop to the $88 to $90 area. Now, later this week, we do have some important inflation numbers. And with the, generally uptrending direction crude oil has had over the last couple of weeks, I wouldn't be that surprised to see those numbers come in a bit hot. But it is a little more complicated than that. That being said, our position in Liberty Energy is coiling near the highs. This looks like it wants to rip higher. Still have a trade in on Petrobras, the Brazilian energy stock, and one that we took on just recently, Technip PLC. This one is also hanging out near the highs, and I like the price action on this one. Could have some decent upside. It's been displaying some notable relative strength within the energy sector, and so that's a variable that we really like to pay close attention to. I want to jump over to the bond market. We just rolled contracts over to the June. I think that the inflation numbers this week are going to be very important for this. And, I've commented on this before, and it's kind of some of the warning signs that we've seen in this market. We had a really nice tight correlation between stocks and bonds for the 2 months coming out of that low in October. But over the last, really 2 months since the start of this year, we've seen that correlation break. We now have an inverted correlation, or inverse correlation, excuse me, between stocks and bonds. So stocks are making new all-time highs. Bonds are trying to form a low. And what I am looking at in this scenario is a potential rally and a return of the traditional flight to safety trade happening in bonds over the next couple of weeks. So I think a low of significance is really close. Could fall another point or two, but we can't rule out that the bottom is already complete per our cycle studies. And if we do catch a bid here, we're talking about, another 3 to 4 point rally to the upside in bonds, but there may be another point or two in terms of downside that needs to be fleshed out before a low of significance could conform. So seeing duration lead to the downside today in bonds does suggest that, there are still some selling pressures in this space, but I think this decline is closer to its end than its beginning. We may have a capitulation of the sorts coincide this week with the inflation report on Thursday. So keep an eye on that. There are still some potential downside targets, which, if fulfilled following the inflation report, could signal that a low of significance is complete. So we'll be definitely keeping members updated on that front. And I do want to wrap us up with precious metals. Similar story here. I think that if we do see a nice bid unfold in bonds, it will be a major tailwind, a major boon for precious metals. Gold still consolidating near its all-time highs. This is not bearish price action. I had put in a solid week last week. So far to start the week, it's been mediocre, but I would like to see gold hit $2,500, $3,000 an ounce at some point this year. I don't know if the catalyst will simply be because of monetary reasons or geopolitics, but in looking at silver here, which we just rolled over to the May contract, let's look at that specifically. You can see here that we did make a new low this week. But, some bids are still trying to come into the picture. So I think it ultimately depends on what happens in the interest rate market. If bonds bottom, I'm looking for precious metals to participate. But again, not ruling out one final swoon to the downside to get that sense of capitulation in the market. Did pick up a couple of mining names over the last week or so, looking at Anglo Ashanti, a really rare potential diamond formation pattern here. I don't really see a lot of those patterns printed anymore, but we could have one setting up here in Anglo Ashanti, and then Agnico Eagle Mines that is looking better as well. Better in the sense that it's been displaying some relative strength against some of its peers, but definitely need to see some improvements from a technical standpoint in the coming weeks. And I think a drop in interest rates could be a catalyst for that. So that's everything that I wanted to review with you today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope to see you in the TheoTRADE chat room.